In this video today, I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favourite documentaries as part of my real media research. My group decided to do documentaries, and we decided to look at observatory documentaries, as this is the style and genre of documentary that we would like to do as our final product. And so my first documentary that I looked at was Bondi Rescue. This is an observatory documentary. However, due to the programme breaking a few conventions of an observatory documentary, the documentary also has to be classed as a participatory documentary. Many of the conventions that Bondi Rescue follows are, firstly, that the whole thing is filmed on basically one handheld camera. The lifeguards, as they're going about their job, are followed around by a cameraman, basically filming their every move and everything that unfolds. Another convention that Bondi Rescue follows is that it is all on one location. So everything is filmed on Bondi Beach, although some of the footage as well is split between the beach and the lifeguard tower. It is all still filmed on one location. And finally, the last convention that Bondi Rescue follows is that it's direct sound recording. And so everything that is being said, every noise you hear, everything that happens, you hear directly through the sound. However, this is where conventions start to be broken slightly, in that the direct sound recording can sometimes be hard to hear, can sometimes be hard to understand, especially when you've got foreign people on the beach and they're they're asking questions, and you can hear them speaking on camera, and sometimes you may not understand what they're saying, and so subtitles are put along the bottom so that you understand. However, this does break conventions, as an observatory documentary, you're literally just meant to be a fly on the wall, listening and seeing what is happening. And so the way that Bondi Rescue breaks conventions, firstly, the main thing is that interviews are included.
So we just organise a few boards and take them out. They get in the water, sort of loosen the body up and try and enjoy themselves, catch a few waves.
Who are the Roosters? Well, they're the best rugby league team in Australia. They're from Bondi, and I've been supporting them since I was a kid.
Straight away, with interviews being included, this makes it a participatory documentary, as if it was just purely observational, there would be no interaction between the cameraman and the people being filmed. Another way that Bondi Rescue also breaks conventions of an observatory documentary is that a lifeguard may actually talk over the footage and act as a voiceover.
Join the lifeguard service, that passion for the Roosters becomes a little bit fanatical.
Just take the boogie board out.
Everyone loves them, and they're the best team going around. Go the Chookies!
And so this happened quite a bit during Bondi Rescue, in that as you're witnessing an event unfold, it may be a bit confusing for the viewer. For an observatory documentary, there are meant to be no interactions at all, and so this is how it breaks conventions, by having the voiceover and by having interviews. The target audience for Bondi Rescue, I decided, would be a family target audience for a number of reasons. Firstly, due to the thrill and the danger almost shown in Bondi Rescue. It's very intriguing, but it suits all ages. As you know, the thrill and the danger it's not gruesome and it's not violent, it keeps you on the edge of your seats. And another reason I think it's family audience based is the educational purpose that is behind the show. I think the educational purpose is aimed towards more kids that actually live in Australia and on Bondi Beach, as the educational purposes are for water safety. And so while you may hear a lifeguard talking and giving a voiceover to what's happening as the footage, you will hear a clear message in how they're saying, the water is dangerous, you need to be careful when you're swimming. And finally, I think that the target audience is for a family audience, as the entertainment purpose of Bondi Rescue really just shows Bondi Rescue in a different light. And I think it really plays on people's intrusive nature. The second documentary that I looked at was Educating Essex. I chose this school-based documentary as this is the style of documentary that my group have chosen to do as our final project. The first thing I noticed about Educating Essex was that it was an observatory documentary, and so it followed the conventions of an observatory documentary. Firstly, although handheld cameras weren't used, there were cameras placed in the classrooms, in the corridors, in the teachers' rooms, in the lunchrooms, all around the school, filming everything that happens from a normal school day. Secondly, direct sound recording is used.
Diameter is circumference divided by pi.
What is pi? Where did it come from?
And so you are hearing live footage, no added sound is included, everything that is said you are hearing. Thirdly, the documentary's presence is hidden. There is no presenter, you don't know who's making the films, there is no extra body in the school interacting with the kids. It is basically just the cameras. However, due to conventions being broken by this show, Educating Essex is also a participatory documentary. The main thing that breaks this convention to make it a participatory documentary is again that interviews are one of the main features.
And I think sometimes you need somebody who is slightly kind of, sort of uber focused on everything and is very kind of obsessive about it, who will just then make the things that he wants actually happen as a reality.
That is one of the main things that breaks the conventions of an observatory documentary. Secondly, due to the fact that so much footage is gathered throughout them filming, obviously somebody has to go through that footage and decide what is worth watching, and so automatically the conventions of an observatory documentary are broken because you are watching what somebody wants you to see, and so it breaks the conventions of a observatory documentary. Thirdly, voiceovers are included. There is a voiceover right at the beginning of the show as it starts in every episode.
At this school in Essex, 160 students are in their final and most important year, and their head teacher has grand ambitions.
And that same voiceover is then used throughout the whole documentary to explain situations and to highlight certain things and to give you a general understanding of what direction that episode is going to go in. The target audience for Educating Essex, I split into 3 different categories. I split it into students, teachers and parents. I thought that Educating Essex was aimed at student audience because it is set in a school, and so lots of the people watching the show will go to that school or will go to another school and be able to relate to different situations that are happening in the footage that you're seeing. And so the footage such as exam results day or a boring class or something like that, many students will be able to relate to that situation. Secondly, the second target audience that I chose were teachers, for an obvious reason in the fact that teachers will probably get a laugh out of it, will also find it very relatable in saying, I've got students just like that, or, that's exactly how I dealt with that situation. And so an entertainment factor of that as well, being able to look at other people and how they do things is also really intriguing for both students and teachers. And thirdly, I chose parents as well as a target audience. I found this as they can, again, sort of like the teachers, compare their child to a child that they're seeing, and so that's why I chose teenagers, students and parents as my target audience. The third documentary that I looked at was The Tribe. This is a documentary where a family have been chosen from a tribe of about 22,000 people, and their everyday life is filmed for the viewer to see. The documentary is an observatory documentary, as it is a fly-on-the-wall based style filming. The conventions that it follows, again, are firstly that it is cameras placed in the huts, and so it films 24 hours a day of their life, and so you can see everything that happens. You are basically just watching their life as though you are standing in their hut watching what's happening. The second convention that it follows is that it's location filming, and so it's all filmed on one location. There are no sets, the cameras are in their village, in their huts, as it is. Thirdly, there is direct sound recording, and so everything that the people are saying, you are hearing. The conventions that the tribe breaks are firstly, one of the main things that is broken throughout many observatory documentaries that I've looked at are that interviews are included. Also, another thing with that and how the tribe breaks convention is the main problem of language barrier. And so subtitles have to be included throughout the whole documentary. because you will not understand what the people are saying. The target audience that I thought the tribe was aimed at is for an older generation. When I say older, I'm thinking from 17, 18-year-olds onwards. I felt that this was not suitable for under 17, 16 and younger. Firstly, due to the main fact of the language barrier. And so subtitles have to be used throughout the whole documentary. And I feel that children, especially, are slower readers and so will not be able to pick up as quickly as somebody that is older on what is being said.
Isa namu baraki imbasa namu gofa aikimuko ambega imbas ishimene dullo wonno wonyarkine.
Secondly, I thought that the documentary was aimed at an older generation due to the cultural issues that are addressed in the documentary. So when a serious kind of issue is addressed in the, an arranged marriage and how it works and how, they have to trade back and forth to try and get the girl, I feel like a younger audience wouldn't understand that. The fourth documentary that I looked at was Tough Young Teachers. This is a documentary that takes a group of teachers that are straight out of university on a course and puts them in some very troublesome schools, and it follows their progress in how they teach.
50% of teachers leave the job within the first 5 years.
Come on, get out!
Despite this, some of the country's top graduates,
Mia, come in, find your place,
are determined to give teaching a go.
The documentary is an observatory documentary as it follows the general conventions. Firstly, direct sound recording was used, and so whatever the cameraman managed to pick up on his camera is what is shown and is what you hear.
So what do you think I might be doing with these? Yep.
Will you be doing something with fire?
With fire?
Location shooting is all shot in one school that is being showed that episode, and so there are 3 schools that these teachers have been sent to, and so each episode will come back and forth from each school and you'll get an idea of what's happening between these 3 schools, but generally all shooting is done in that one school. Also, the documentary maker's presence is hidden, so there's no presenter, there's no person directing the documentary from in front of the camera. It's all done behind the camera and whatever the cameraman manages to pick up in the lessons that he's sitting in.
Luke, you're just at the back in that chair there. Sorry if I've mispronounced your surname.
And then finally, the subjects being filmed pretend that they're not being filmed.
So, are you a new teacher?
Yeah, I'm new here.
What do you teach?
Ori.
However, Tough Young Teachers does also break conventions of an observatory documentary. Firstly, the main thing being that interviews are included. There are interviews with the teachers and there are also interviews with the students.
My sister how to ride a bike, just little things in my life. I've always enjoyed teaching people how to do stuff, tying knots, whatever.
Make a bond with someone and then you have to break that bond. Yeah.
The footage obviously is also edited. In an observatory documentary such as that, somebody has to go through the footage of what is being produced and what you're seeing. And also the cameraman actually filming the different footage, he's choosing what he wants the audience to see. And so there is a bias intent in that somebody else has to choose what you're going to see. And then finally, there is also a voiceover included.
This week, it's in at the deep end on the first day of term.
This voiceover actually plays a main part in the documentary in that before footage is shown, the voiceover will explain what is happening. The target audience for Tough Young Teachers, I felt, would have been for 15 to 25-year-olds. I chose this age range because, firstly, the documentary is based in a school, and so students that go to school, teachers, people that maybe have just left school, will be able to relate to many situations that are happening in the documentary. However, I did think that this documentary is aimed, although I said 15 to 25-year-olds, I do think it is aimed at the higher sector, and so from like 18 to 25 sort of age, partly because the documentary is based a lot about the teacher's progress. It's not so much, you just observing what is happening in the lessons. The documentary is led by the progress of the teachers, and so it's very reflective as well. And as the documentary unfolds, you know, you see how the teachers progress. And so also it's a kind of reflective documentary as well in that. And I feel that because of that, it is aimed at an older audience. The final documentary that I chose to include in my real media research was Stacey Dooley Investigates. This is a documentary series in which the presenter Stacey Dooley goes out to many third world countries to look at very hard-hitting issues. In the specific episode that I watched, she went to the Philippines to investigate the cybersex trade that was going on out there with the very young girls. I chose to look at this documentary series due to the broad range of genres that this series covered. And so in the specific episode that I watched, I felt that the episode was an expository documentary, an observational documentary, but also a participatory documentary as well. Firstly, I felt that this documentary was expository due to the variety of footage that was gathered and edited together. While she was trying to clearly put across her argument about how the cybersex trade is very wrong, she was gathering footage from things that she'd seen, obviously from Facebook and social media, which is the main issue within the cybersex trade. She was gathering clips from them and creating a montage of things to throw together. Also, she had many attempts to persuade the audience, obviously on her side, on the right side, that, you know, the cybersex trade is very bad and then it's a serious issue. And she does that by very carefully putting her footage together so that you have a clear viewpoint.
UN and the FBI suspect that at any given time there can be 750,000 people online interested in having sex with children. And to hear that the victims typically are young, vulnerable, poor and easy to manipulate, that's going to affect so many of the girls here in the Philippines.
Also, I felt that this documentary was observational due to the fact that it was all done through a handheld camera, and so a cameraman would have been following her around in the Philippines.
Largest passenger port in the Philippines. I've joined Cecilia Obando, whose charity now intercepts up to 500 children a month in this one port alone.
So that one.
Yeah.
So it's a big ship.
I also thought this documentary was participatory due to the fact there were interviews. Wherever she went, she would interview so many people. She had interviews with all the young girls. She had interviews with predators. She just had loads and loads of interviews that would really explain her argument.
So this 41-year-old
Yes.
wants to meet with you even though he knows that you're 14.
Yes.
Have you ever had any situation where you have met them?
Yes.
Also, that there was location filming and natural lighting and direct sound recording as well, all conventions of an observational documentary. And so I felt that this documentary included all three of those genres. The target audience for this documentary, I would say, is from the age range of about 17 to 30. I wouldn't put it any younger than 17 due to the fact that the issues that she looked at in her documentary were very, very controversial and hard-hitting and not suitable for the young ages. I also felt that I wouldn't go much higher than 30 due to herself being the presenter, as she had such a strong lead in it and the whole documentary was led by her. I feel that those of the age over 30 possibly wouldn't prefer her. I think she has quite a young audience base due to the fact that she is young herself, and so naturally those of a similar age and around that, you know, are attracted to her. So that is why I'd have my target audience at 17 to 30.